Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Dan Campbell's staff has disappeared. How will the Lions move forward next season? Also, the Lakers have started off better than expected, but can they sustain it? And you'll never believe it, Hal Steinbrenner said something dumb. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
At this point, you need an accounting degree to figure out what Lions coaches are still in Detroit and what coaches are elsewhere. Ben Johnson, the new head coach in Chicago. Aaron Glenn, the new head coach in New York. Assistants being pilfered left and right. At this point, Dan Campbell is the Will Smith from Fresh Prince meme looking around his living room like, where is everybody? So I thought I would bring my pal Matt Derry from Locked On Lions on to talk about the brain drain in Detroit. Matt, it seems like Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn were pretty major parts of this most recent run of success in Detroit, the most recent run being probably the best modern run in Lions football. How much does everything going on with the flux of the coaches impact how you view this team in 2025?
Certainly, Pete, it would be wrong of me to get on here and say it's not going to affect them. I mean, you're talking about two excellent coordinators. You're talking about two guys that were at that spot and are in those spots for 3-4 years. Aaron Glenn for 4, Ben Johnson for 3 as OC and DC. So those guys did a fantastic job, and certainly it will be a loss. I'm of the belief, and I kind of go back to the Bill Belichick interview the other day on the Let's Go podcast. You have to have players. Yeah, you can have great coaches and you can have turnover on your staff, and you want to have staff accountability, and certainly you want to have continuity, but you got to still have talent. I think the Lions are still chock full of a lot of talent, and I think we'll be just fine. Question for me is more on the offensive side of the ball. I really question the offensive coordinator hiring of John Morton. I think it's fine, but I'm not doing backflips. I'm excited to see what Kelvin Shepard does with the defense. I think he's ready to rock, but the Morton hire was a bit surprising for me.
Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit, because it felt like Ben Johnson had found his muse in Jared Goff, or maybe the other way around, frankly, that was a match made in heaven, that they built this great roster around those guys. Do you expect John Morton, John, not Johnny, to come in and just pick up where Ben Johnson left off in terms of the style? Or do you think they're going to make some tweaks? Does that lead to personnel changes? I mean, it feels like there is a domino effect that could potentially happen here.
You know, if John Morton hadn't been in Detroit, Pete, over the last couple of years, he was an offensive assistant in 2022, then left to go with Sean Payton. Shocking. The Lions are going to pluck from a Sean Payton tree, but I digress. John Morton is going to come in and have
worked out pretty well last time they did that, right?
It's very true. But I think John Morton is going to do what Dan Campbell wants him to do, and that's still pound the rock, run the football. I know Morton got fired in 2017 in New York by Todd Bowles, coach of the Jets, because they didn't run it enough. I don't think that's going to be a problem here. When you have the blueprint, and Ben Johnson and John Morton both sketched it out back in 2022, you don't mess with it. I wouldn't. The play action game with Goff is so good. The utilization of the tight ends with Laporta and Wright is so good. The St. Brown stuff over the middle, Gibbs and Montgomery in the backfield. Why mess with that? I don't think that'll happen, but it's the creativity. It's some of the trick plays that Johnson had such a good feel for, that we'll have to see if Morton can do that or not.
Yeah, it's I think easy to forget that even though the Lions lost that game against the Commanders, 500 yards of offense, over 30 points, it was really the turnovers from Jared Goff, and then inexplicably from Jameson Williams in that game that cost them that one. This is a team, though, Matt, that at the end of the year was just not bereft of talent, because their talent was all on IR. What do they need to do this offseason to fortify whether it's the defense, whether it's the offense, to try and get this team to where they want to get to, which is a Super Bowl?
You know, you look at the mock drafts right now, obviously the Lions are going to be, because of a 15-win season. And
I try not to, frankly.
Yeah. But because they won 15 games and they were highly successful, and as you know, Pete, NFC North champs, although, next year the Bears are winning it. At least that's what everybody tells us, right, Pete?
I have heard that
a few times.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The mocks all say the Lions are going to go with an edge opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Zadarius Smith, they have to decide if they want to bring him back. Aleem McNeil got banged up and obviously tore his ACL. So will he be ready for the start of the year as somebody from an interior? But I think adding to that defensive line, Levi Onwuzurike is likely gone in free agency. DJ Reader stays, but I think they've got some questions along the defensive line, not named Hutchinson, McNeil, and Reader, that they need to address. And I think that's what they'll do. It'll be interesting to see where they go in free agency. As we know, Brad Holmes is not a break the bank general manager. He's more of a fit. And is he a Lion? And can he acclimate to our locker room type of situation? But I would look first and foremost at defensive line, and also at retaining Carlton Davis at corner and Kevin Zeitler at right guard. Those guys have got to be brought back. They were big pieces of this team.
You can stay up to date all year on the Detroit Lions by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lions on your favorite podcast app. And on YouTube. Your Locked On Sports Today coming up. What can the Lakers do to make sure they can be contenders in the West? Is there anything? Before we get to that, Aaron Glenn is building a strong coaching staff in New York. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. I grew up in Milwaukee where there's this huge music festival called Summerfest, and I went every year, and it's food and it's incredible stuff. And then there's a headliner. And I can remember seeing some of my favorite acts growing up, saving up my money so that I could get tickets. I remember vividly what it was like to be there when I was 10, 12 years old. And I can't wait to make those memories with my kids. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Steve Wilks will be joining Aaron Glenn on the New York Jets coaching staff. Wilks agreed to become the Jets defensive coordinator on Wednesday, becoming Glenn's first significant hire. Wilks was out of the NFL to the 2024 season after serving just one season with the San Francisco 49ers as their DC. He was fired in February, a few days after the Niners lost to Kansas City in the last Super Bowl that the Chiefs were in. I know it's hard to keep track of all these things. Wilks will be the primary play caller on defense, as Glenn said he would not be taking those responsibilities with him from Detroit. According to reports, Glenn is close to filling his other coordinator positions with Lions passing game coordinator Tanner Engstrad. He is set to be their OC. Yet another first-time coach bringing in a long-time defensive coordinator to come in and run the show. In NBA news, Commissioner Adam Silver open to changing the length of quarters. Silver said on an appearance on the Dan Patrick Show, as we get more involved in global basketball, the NBA is the only league that plays 48 minutes. And I am a fan of 4 10-minute quarters. Silver's remarks came in response to Patrick's question about something tangible league officials have discovered potentially changing in the future. Silver also said that awarding 2 free throws to shooters who are fouled on 3-point attempts has also been mentioned in conversations. Anything to avoid reducing the number of games, even though it is obvious that what they need to do is reduce the number of games. But guess what? That would take money out of everyone's pockets. Can't do that. The Lakers had off last night, but they sit at 5th in the Western Conference standings right now. If you're in the mood to do a little standings watching here in late January, Brian Kamenetsky from Locked On Lakers joins me now. And Brian, Anthony Davis the other night put up 40 and 20. LeBron James still looks like LeBron. And this team, record-wise, is doing more than it did last year. What has been the key to what has been a pretty solid start here?
Well, yeah, it's funny. Like, we talk about this all the time. Like, which part of this do you believe? And I'm sure we'll get to it here in a second. But on the one hand, the record is pretty good. They are doing well in the conference. obviously what happened in Philadelphia on Tuesday was not great, but overall the arc of the season has been pretty positive. Most people thought they'd be fighting for a play-in. They are out of that range right now. They are in that top 6 where the Lakers really want to try to finish. Anthony Davis, I think, has been the catalyst for all of it. JJ Redick has made, I think, some improvements, if nothing else, in sort of the process and the morale of how guys are playing. Austin Reeves has been empowered to do more point guard stuff, especially since the trade of D'Angelo Russell. Max Christie has gotten an opportunity to start, and that has worked out really well. So, there is a fair amount of good stuff that has come together. The problem is you look at it and, they like all teams, they lose. But when they lose big. They have one of the worst point differentials of any, certainly top 6 in both conferences. But if you take the 20 playoff teams or play-in teams, however you want to define it, the Lakers have among the worst point differentials and have all season. So it's hard to tell, are they as legit as the playoff seeding and the record might suggest?
Yeah, of the top 10 in the West, they have the worst point differential, minus 1.3. That is usually a harbinger of things to come, but also we've seen teams carry that into the playoffs. And if you've got LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you probably feel pretty good about your chances in a playoff series. Brian, we know that if LeBron wants moves made, he's not afraid to passive aggressively or even aggressively
right.
say, I want stuff done here. Now they did make the Dorian Finney-Smith trade. Are they done, or do you think there's more to do, more they can do here, given the flexibility or lack thereof that this team has?
I think the can is probably the bigger problem than the will. There isn't a really good fit for what the Lakers have to offer. They use their big contract that expires in D'Angelo Russell to get Dorian Finney-Smith. That made a lot of sense. They had those second-round picks they could use. They don't have the second-round flexibility anymore, and the only other big contract they have in that sort of $15 to $20 million range is Rui Hachimura, who has more time left on his deal. Then after that, you bump down to Austin Reeves, who they're really you'd have to blow the Lakers away to get them to trade Reeves, given both his importance on the team and the quality of his contract. Now you're down to Gabe Vincent, $11 million. And so they don't have a lot of stuff. They only have 2 first-round picks that they can really control to trade. And then they have Dalton Connect as a young player that has some value around the league. But after that, they don't have any young guys they can offer, like San Antonio could dangle, a Castle or something like that to Sacramento as part of De'Aaron Fox deal or something like that. So they're in a box of their own making, but they are still in a box. There's no question.
Quickly here, how much better do you think this version of the Lakers can get, or are they hitting their heads on their ceiling right now?
This version, I think, is about at the ceiling. They are capable, especially I wouldn't want to play them in the first round of the playoffs, because that's when LeBron has the most amount of rest. AD has the most amount of rest. You're not in that every other day thing. And if they don't have to play in a play-in to get there, I think they're a very dangerous first-round team. I think after that, what you're seeing here is probably close to the ceiling, because they don't have the consistency to do an 8-week run through the playoffs. I just don't see that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Lakers, you're not going to be afraid of Memphis in a situation where it's 3-6. They believe they can beat that team, and in the playoffs, they have a track record in the playoffs. Yeah,
even Oklahoma City, who are significantly better than the Lakers, I don't think there's any question. The Lakers could at least tell themselves, based on previous performances and all that stuff. Now, this is pre-Hartenstein and all that kind of stuff, but these are the things that teams do to help make them give them confidence going into a series, that they've had success against Oklahoma City. I would not pick the Lakers in that series by any stretch, but maybe short of the Thunder, would they take the Rockets? I think the Lakers would be pretty confident against a relatively raw Rockets team that may not have been there, doesn't have the experience, that LeBron and AD could say, yeah, we can handle that. And so a couple smaller improvements, they could make some noise. It's just it's this consistency issue that really gets me. Like, good teams play well for weeks at a time. The Lakers can do it for 4 or 5 games, and then they look terrible, and then they look really good, and then they look terrible. There's no consistent middle ground that tells me that this is a real thing that is sustainable. But from an individual matchup standpoint, I agree with you. I'd have to take them seriously in any individual matchup.
You can stay up to date all year on the LA Lakers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lakers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Hal Steinbrenner said something dumb. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, though. Come on, the Chiefs are going to win. And there's a better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is incredibly easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. And one bet you might take a look at, the NBA tonight. Cavs have been on a roll, you might say. They host the Atlanta Hawks. FanDuel has the Cavs favored by 10.5. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. A bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. The LA Dodgers have outspent everyone this offseason. Again, they've spent so much, they had the Yankees owner crying poor. The Yankees owner. No, really. Locked On Yankees host Stacey Gutsulias and Brian McKeon don't want to hear it.
It's every year he says stuff like that. The whole playoffs are a crapshoot. You don't know what's going to happen until you get to the playoffs. The whole we can't really spend thing. What? What do you mean? Yeah. All of the owners can spend. They all can spend. They're all billionaires. And it drives me crazy that what they're doing basically, they are setting up for the 2026 lockout that's probably going to happen now, because they're going to be bitching and moaning about a salary cap, and things are going to, get heated again like everything got in 2021. So be on the lookout for that. This is all setting that up. That's why these guys are coming out now before the 2025 season to talk about this stuff. Oh, we need a salary cap, and we need this, and we need that. And it's just, Hal, please stop. Your team is worth like $8 billion. You are the last person that anyone should hear talking about, oh, we can't do what the Dodgers. Yes, you can. You can do what the Dodgers have done. You can.
Just for reference.
Yes.
For reference, you'll enjoy these stats. Maybe it'll calm you down. Probably won't. From 2002 to 2010, the Yankees payroll collectively was $1.66 billion.
Good Lord.
The number 2 team, so the second place team all combined of salaries, was $1.17 billion. The Yankees spent 42.1% more money than the rest of Major League Baseball from 2002 to 2010. So I don't want to hear about that. The Yankees in 2005 spent 69.4% more money than the number 2 team when it came to spending in baseball.
And what happened in 2005? They got knocked out in the first round.
If you want to compare this to modern day numbers, that the number 1 team, which is Los Angeles, behind the number 2 team, which is the Yankees right now, the Phillies actually, that means the Dodgers would have to be spending $300 million more than the Phillies. And
that's crazy.
Which is crazy. It's not on the same relative scale as compared to what the Yankees are doing in 2005. So I don't want to hear that. And by the way, Stacey, from 2002 to 2010, when the Yankees were outspending everybody in baseball, the Yankees were number 1 in payroll all of those years. Do you know who never appeared in the number 2 spot?
The Dodgers.
The Dodgers. They were the number 2 team in payroll. So I don't want to hear about how now all of a sudden they can spend more than everybody. Nope. I don't want to hear it.
I appreciate the Yankees hosts, in this case, Stacey and Brian, calling out the owner for this, because this is loser behavior. That's all it is. Loser behavior. This would not stand under the elder Steinbrenner. This kind of stuff. There was a time when the Yankees were this, when they were the big bad, when they were the team just waiting for every mid-market team just waiting for every international player to say, we will pay him, and we will pay him. So why don't you just trade him to us? Because we're, look, you don't want to pay him. Just trade him to us. That was the Yankees for decades, it seems. No one is going to play their violin. If they're playing an instrument, it is the world's smallest violin at the tiers of the Yankees ownership. That someone else is doing the thing that the Yankees did forever. And finally, Utah Hockey Club will not be moving forward with Yeti or Yetis as its team nickname, and will hold an in-arena fan vote to pick a new one. The name Yeti was rejected by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. There are 3 options to choose from: the Utah Hockey Club, which would be no change, the Utah Mammoth, and the Utah Wasatch. Bodie McBoatface just missed the cut, apparently. And you know why they can't use Yeti, right? Like, you probably have them in your cabinet. I would assume that would be why. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, can the Rockets keep this going? And are they real contenders in the West? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.